What we're going to talk about now, it wasn't just enough for me to turn around to the people that I said we could do better and do something that was entertaining, which hopefully that was. We actually had to come up with something that meant something. So Ant and I spent about 4 months? We spent about 4 months really looking at what we'd done with the club and trying to identify 5 key things. I like 5 as a number. It always works well for me because you can manage 5s. What are the 5 most important things we've learned from developing a club, from grassroots to success to failure to going back up again, that you could actually apply in any club? And that's what we're going to look at here. And we passionately believe if you don't get these things in place, you're going to make it really difficult for yourself going forward. And things like financial stability actually become very difficult if you don't have this in place. However, to make you remember it more and to get you thinking about it, we're not going to tell you it, you're going to work out what it is. And it's much funnier for us. Now, what I will say, there are at least 2 people here who were at the seminar we did up in Perth. They are not allowed to shout out the answers or tell anyone else.
Too late.
Because we changed them. No, we didn't. Okay. So the way this works, I'm going to play a piece of music. You are going to then say what you think the step is. Okay? It's very easy. What I would say is 4 of them are very easy. 1 of them is very difficult. Unless you've seen it before. Okay, so here's the first one. Now it can only be played once because I don't know the technology to go backwards and forwards. So you better listen when it comes through. Okay, so that's clue number 1. I would say that's the easiest one. Okay, so what you've got to do first of all is, what is the first step in club development?
Knowing who you are.
Identity.
Knowing who you are.
Knowing who you are, identity. Any other ideas? Ethos.
Branding.
Branding.
Establish yourself.
What you're about. God, this is great. Told you it was an easy one. Yeah. Who are you? I don't mean the simplistic answer of, oh, we're such and such an athletics club. That's just what you're called. What we mean by who are you is, what do you stand for? You as a club, what do you actually stand for? What are you about? And the sort of things that come from that, some of the ones that we've got for Kinross. We are very much about fun, enjoyment and involvement. That for us is the cornerstone of a lot of the stuff that's going on. If it isn't fun, why are we doing it in the first place? We're volunteers. It's got to be fun. Enjoyment is a slightly different thing. I've enjoyed cricket matches that have been very, very hard and we've lost because it's been an enjoyable experience to play in that competitive environment. Was it fun when I was doing it? Not really. But I did enjoy the game. So there's a slight difference between fun and enjoyment. And involvement. We want people involved in the club. We want people to get passionate about the club. You'll find that we are very passionate about what we're doing, and that drives us forward. So for us, we stand for fun, enjoyment and involvement. But we also look at what's our views on behaviour that people have. Swearing and bullying. Part of the experience we have was playing at the Mire, and we shared that with football clubs, and I was horrified. And my apologies to any of the football people, Mark. And
For a short period.
for a short period. I was horrified at what was going on. And this was the coach talking to the kids. And we just looked at that and said, that is just not what we're about. We don't want that. We don't want any of this idea of, right, you got that wrong, so give me 50 press-ups. That's not going to help anyone. So we have very clear guidelines on what we mean by behaviour, both in terms of towards each other, the outward world, everything that's going on. There's no swearing. We don't accept it at all. And we have a very, very simple policy. Anyone in our club who swears will speak to their parents, which is most embarrassing if you're in your 40s. But, but quite frankly, we just don't tolerate it. We say to the kids, I don't care what you do at school, you may be 16, 17 and you do that at school, you do not do it here. Because we shouldn't have to listen to you speaking out of the gutter. And actually the kids know that, and they just don't do it. And we've got very clear guidelines. And there's no bullying of any fashion. You may be the worst cricketer that the world has ever seen, and you're picked to play in a team that's got 5 guys who are trying out for Scotland. And you may have an absolute disaster of a night, but you know what? At no point will they ever point the finger at you and say you've let us down or whatever else. Their job is to actually be the role models and say, don't worry about it, you'll get better. And that's something we try and build on. Inclusion, disabilities and community. We want everyone involved in cricket, whether they're 76 years old, whether they're any good or not, whatever they're doing, we want them involved. People with disabilities, people with challenges, we welcome them. Hence my trip down to Manchester, which is probably the scariest thing I've done in quite a while. To actually take 12 people with disabilities down to Manchester in a minibus, to take them to Old Trafford to play in an ECB competition. It's the first ever Scottish team. It's not a Scotland team, it's the first team ever from Scotland to go down. And we're absolutely terrified about things like, what do? We stop at services. What if they all run off? What if no one comes back? All of these things are going through our mind, but we want people with disabilities coming in, and we're the only club that actually has an active disability section. And we want to be part of the community. That for us is a huge thing. We want respect for all. It doesn't matter who you are. You come to Kinross Cricket Club, we will look after you. We will treat you nicely. Is it about winning or participating? Let's ask you. What's important, winning or participating? Participating, okay. Any other views?
Bit of both.
Bit of both? Oh, come on, there's more than 2 people with opinions in this room.
Doing the best you can.
Yeah.
Doing the best you can?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, we look at it as both. It's a combination of both. And for some people, winning actually becomes important because they've reached that point where they're on a pathway. And actually winning for them is a measure. It's not win at all costs, but winning actually becomes part of the process that they can measure, are we doing well? Particularly captaincy and things like that. Participation, equally important. But we don't take the view of there are no winners. Yes, there are winners. That's the way life is. You may well do your best and you don't win, but that's not important. You did your best. What will be really disappointing is if you didn't try. So we try and build on that. And we want to develop people. For us, that's very important. We were having a chat earlier on about coaching, and one of the disappointing things for us is that Cricket Scotland 3 years ago decided to scrap the level 1 in cricket coaching, the UKCC1. They thought it was a waste of time, wasn't any point, you only really got value from doing the level 2. And I went back to them and said, hang on a minute, we have a policy. When you looked at that and we saw, we started off with 3 coaches, and within 3 years we had 25. Do you know how we did that? Would you like to know how we did that?
Yeah.
We just adopted a very simple policy. You move from being a junior to a senior when you move out of the under 15s. So when you become 16, you effectively become a senior for us because that's the way Scottish cricket is structured in terms of junior cups. So we simply said, right, as soon as you move out of the under 15s, the club will pay for you to do a UKCC1. And we'll get you qualified. All we ask is that you come back the following season and coach the little ones. Because that's where you started. And you'll work with a level 2 or a club coach and actually gain some experience. What we found in doing that is actually we've got something like 5 of those kids have now done their level 2. James started that way and he's now a professional coach. 3 of them now earn their summer income at university by being cricket coaches. And we developed them and gave them that opportunity to go through. It created coaches for us, but it actually allowed them to gain qualifications that they now earn an income during the summer holidays doing. And it's just a very good way for us to sort of build things. Is it about the future or is it about now? Are you running the club because you've got things you've got to do now, it's about winning this year? Or are you actually looking at it and saying, you know what, this year is important to an extent, but what we're really looking at is the next 10 years. Do any of your clubs have a 10-year plan? Any of your clubs have a next week plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends where you are in that process. The more successful the club, the longer they tend to look, because they've got people who tend to look that way. But equally, there are many times when that 10-year plan seems so far away because SEPA have just said no, it's chucking it down with rain, we've got matches scheduled for next week and can't go on to it. Do you know what? Now is really important. So we know what that is. But you need to understand where you stand. Understand where you stand. We developed it, someone said ethos. Clearly they were on the course up in Perth. This is what we wrote when we came up with it. Kinross Cricket Club, we're now Kinross. We actually changed the name of the club because it reflects the fact we now coach in all 7 of the cluster schools, the primary schools, and we're actually much bigger than just Kinross. We're a family club. We provide players of all backgrounds and abilities the opportunity to play and enjoy cricket at whatever level is right for them. That's the absolute core. If any of you pitched up and said, I want to play cricket, no bother, come in, we'll sort out, and you can play wherever suits you and was the right place for you. We'll provide safe, enjoyable environment that players can achieve their own goals and aspirations without the pressure to perform or win for others. All our coaches will be trained and properly accredited, and we'll try and provide the best facilities and management we can whilst maintaining a sustainable financial future. Hugely important. I wasn't being flippant when I said it's going to cost upwards of £200,000 to build a new ground. I have no idea where that money's coming from at this moment. I've spoken to some people who said there might be money available on that, but for us that's a capital project. So I don't know exactly how that's coming, but that for us is a capital project. But I can tell you exactly how much money we will bring in this year as a club. And I can also tell you exactly how much money we will spend this year as a club. And I can go back since 2004 when I took over the running of the club and look at all those figures. And that for me is the most important thing, because as long as I know exactly what we're likely to bring in, that lets me know exactly how much we can spend on the day-to-day operational side of the club. Large capital projects are totally different. That's not about sustainable future. And to give you an idea, there are no grants that we get at all. Everything that we get, we generate ourselves, because that way we're in control of it and other people aren't making decisions that affect us. But that's what we're about. That's the ethos of Kinross Cricket Club. People understand what we're saying now about who are you. If someone turned around and said, who are you? It's more than just saying, we're such and such an athletic club. This is who we are. This is what we're about. Basically, everyone in the club needs to share in the same values, or you will not get them to support what you're doing. If you take anything away tonight, please take that. And I'll relate it to some cricket clubs. I'm now, the business Ant and I run at Ogilvie Ross, we took a decision about a year ago that we wanted to do a lot of other things that were out with the mainstream of what we did. So we created a thing called Giving Back. 20% of our billable time as consultants we actually give for free to organisations that couldn't afford to pay for us. That doesn't mean to say that we just open it up to the whole world. We are actually quite selective, and we've got to feel that we can bring benefit to it. And it means we get to talk to clubs of all sorts. And when they turn around and say, well, the problem is we haven't got the resources. We can't get parents to take kids to events. We can't do this, we can't get that. People don't buy into this, that, and that doesn't happen. We can't get access to that. And they say, because nobody's interested. I take them back to this and say, well, the reason I'm not interested is whatever you think you're about, you're not sharing that with them and they don't believe it. Because if you can't get people to buy into your values, you will not get them to take their kids places. They'll just view you as childcare. It's pay the £2, drop them off and go away. When they start to look at what you're trying to do and understand what you're doing, and they say, actually I want to be part of that, it's amazing the transformation that comes through. And we will revisit this as we go through, I've no doubt, when we start getting the questions. But it's absolutely essential that who you are, you're able to translate that to people. Any questions on that? Anyone think that's utter rubbish? If you think it's rubbish, just say so. All we're doing here is the things we think. None of this is academic. This is based on what we have done. No questions, it's a tough gig.
Are you going to actually show us how you created that? As in made them realise what you're doing?
Oh gosh, no. Yes. We can talk through those things. There we are. How do you work towards it? What do we do as a club? What do you do? That was a question. What you're all in clubs. What is it you actually do?
Promote athletics, encourage athletics.
Okay.
Get the best out of kids doing what
Okay.
they want to do.
Give them life skills.
Life skills. Okay.
Just get people involved in sport.
Get them involved in sport.
We like to think we do the best we can for all we can in a safe and caring environment.
Yep.
With the qualified coaches, etc. So we'd like to think that.
Yep.
Give them some values that they actually can take wherever they go. So you give them the way you want them to win, but you also want to win in the right way. So you're kind of educating them on that. So.
Okay. Anyone else got any ideas? Okay, try something here. If you're one of those people who likes to talk in these things and chucking ideas, can you put your hand up? Good. Helps me enormously. because it knows where I then go for eye contact. So I don't want to embarrass people by sort of asking a question and looking at them and thinking, don't look at me, don't look at me. This is awful. I don't want to speak. Because some people don't, and that's fine. Some people like to come to you afterwards and say, I've got some questions, so that's fine. But what I do want to do is make sure that when we go for questions, that we get an opportunity that I can then look round those people and say, well, what's your feeling on this one? Okay. How do you work towards it? You really need to understand what you do. And most of the things you said are great, but there's one thing missing. Can anyone think what that is?
Communicate.
Yeah, how do you, yeah. Communication. What you've told me is what you do, which is great.
Your previous slide was communication.
Yeah. That was really looking at the whole principle of what you've got to try and do. What we've got to look at here, when you talk about, oh, we're an athletics club and we do these things, the thing for me that's missing is what you're doing is you're saying what you do, which is what we've asked there. What I want you to try and do is to think that in a slightly different way. What do you do for them? When we work with businesses, in business consultancy, and we look at things like this, the first thing we do is we talk about the customer. And we talk about whoever we're working with thinking about what their customer wants and what their customer view is. And we try and get them to talk, every time they talk about their business, they talk about their business in terms of what the customer's viewing, rather than what they want the customer to see. Okay, so we're going to come on to a bit more of that in a minute. Who do you help in what you're doing? So you've said that you're an athletics club, that you want to get people involved in sport. That's great. Who do you help?
Community.
The community. That's a very big word. Is that the global community? Is that the local community? Can you be more specific?
Let's take it the local community.
Okay.
Let's break it down to youngsters, kids, adults,
Yep.
parents, even that sort of thing. Parents of athletes, parents of youngsters.
Yep.
Give them a reason to go somewhere, give them a discipline, learning in life, future, make them better adults in the future, that sort of thing.
Yep.
That's where we can help. Adults, parents of kids to have better control over their kids. What we find in our club is that, you know, the discipline we install in our club, that some parents are probably wrong say that since my kid joined your club, Jerry, I don't have to tell that kid to go out of bed in the morning and go to school, tidy his room, that sort of thing. Like, who do we help? We help the parent, we help the kid, make the kid a better athlete, make the kid a better adult for the future. That's what we think we do, like, in all those things.
I love the sound of your club. No, I genuinely do, because not even so much, I don't know which club it is, I don't know anything about you, but just hearing what you're saying, what's starting to come through now is very much an ethos about the club that is not actually about athletics. None of what you've told me there has anything to do with athletics. But you clearly understand what you're trying to do as a club.
See if the kid becomes a better runner, that's the bonus.
Perfect. We take the view that if what we're doing makes them a good human being and valuable to society, that's what's fantastic about it. If they can play cricket and take a couple of wickets, even better. That just means on Saturday we get to have a better tea. That's what it means for us. Does that concept ring bells with anyone in the room? Or somebody sitting there saying, I don't understand a word of that. Where did that come from? I'm just open questions here. You don't have to answer that one. But actually what we're starting
to broaden it out, because it's not just the kids, but we're trying also to take over areas like Jog Scotland are doing, about getting older people involved. Because some of the older people there who are maybe in the 40s and never been running before, they have no idea how to go about it. And they feel a bit frightened, particularly the ladies feel frightened about going out at night time by themselves. So we've got a policy saying, look, we'll come out with you, we'll do it at your level. And I think that's the other key, is to make sure that you're doing what they want at their level, rather than trying to think, right, you're going to be able to do a 5k in 20 minutes. No, we'll do it in 30, 35 minutes. It's also thinking not just about the kids, but also about the older people, and trying to get the parents involved at that level as well.
But that's going to apply across the board anyway. You're going to be applying whoever it is to whatever age they are. And it's back to your original thing where you actually said that you apply the appropriate level of sport to them, or the appropriate level of competition to the person who's taking part. It's all about taking part at the end of the day.
That's the theory of what we're talking about. What we've got to then do, the people in here, is start thinking, okay, I've heard some interesting things here from two sides of the rooms. How much of that goes on in our club? Or how much of our club is just we're an athletics club? And we don't really know what happens after that. We're just an athletics club. So we're getting some really good answers coming through about those components.
You almost could argue you need the opposite from what other people said. We're an athletics and our job is to breed excellence in athletics
Yeah,
and to produce winners,
yeah.
produce people that go to the Olympic Games, and certain elements of what people have been talking about must be sacrificed for that.
Okay, there's an interesting concept. Who agrees with that?
I don't, because
Depends who you are.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of what you've said is very true. And often what you'll find, and certainly within cricket it works this way as well, there are those cricket clubs that are specifically there to do what we do. And we recognise that there's actually an upper limit to where we are. So when Peter, son number 2, got to the stage that he was playing internationally for Scotland, we were the first ones to sit down and say, Peter, we're no longer the club for you. And it's all the points you picked up. There are other clubs who are actually much better geared to doing exactly what you've just talked about, to take him, because we'd reached the point where we couldn't do that. We'd got him to that stage, but where he was never going to progress beyond that. And that's where you understand what your clubs are about. To some extent, from a business point of view, you have different markets, but each one of you is perfectly valid in the environment you're in. The danger is, if you try and be all things to all men and cover all bases, actually you become ineffective at all of them. So if your club is specifically looking at the elite performance athletes and moving them on, then your target market is slightly different. You may well bring them in, and I've seen some clubs that do it quite well, that they do have participation in there. But equally they have a fast track program that goes through. And we've been developing fast track programs in some other areas. So there isn't a, oh no, that's wrong. The fact is, no, it's absolutely right for your club because that's what your club is about. And as long as you can translate that message, then it helps to actually feed it through. And what we're trying to do in cricket now is those clubs that were at the top end used to just hoover up all the kids. We just bring them all in because they wanted to be part of that successful club, because they thought if you're part of that successful club, you would play international cricket. Actually, it's a very small number that go that way. But what was happening was they were just hoovering in all the kids and all the small clubs that were actually much better at doing grassroots participation with the folk who were never going to play international cricket. Mainly because it isn't what they wanted to do. The commitment you have to make to actually become an elite athlete is substantial. And certainly we've had kids who are very, very good cricketers, but they're also very, very good musicians. One of the chaps on the video that you saw with all the hair, very good cricketer, could easily have actually moved through the performance rankings, but he's also a phenomenally talented jazz musician. And actually his career is now as a jazz musician. And he had to make some decisions, and we were disappointed to lose him from cricket, but equally that wasn't where he was going. But he enjoyed playing in the club, and we've got lots of examples of that. So again, yeah, who do you help? It just depends where your market sector is. What makes you different? You've answered a lot of it there. A lot of that is actually saying this is what we're about. We're about taking people to that next level. What makes you different as a club? Again, we don't need to answer that at the moment, but this is how you start to get that communication worked out. This is how you start to understand who you are. How do you want people to describe you? One of the things we do is we ask the parents, what does Kinross Cricket Club mean for you? The first time we did it was very interesting because it isn't what we thought we meant to them. And that helped us shape the fact that we actually weren't getting the communication right. Because what we thought and what they actually thought were two different things. So when you want to try and say, how do we get our message across, you've got to talk to people. And one of the best ways is, what do we mean? One of the nicest things for us is we won a Cricket Scotland's Junior Club Award. We actually didn't know we were a junior club. We just thought we were a cricket club. But they came back and said, no, you're one of the best junior clubs at developing juniors. And then we actually looked around and said, you know what, they're right. We don't have those many guys who are actually, we actually don't have any cricketers above the age of 21 below 35. None at all. They go off and play their cricket elsewhere. We're now moving much more into the situation that we've got quite a lot of guys who are now 40 plus, and a lot of teenagers who come up to about 18. Then they go off to uni and do stuff, and they might come back occasionally, but we kind of lose that middle bit. But you know what? We're comfortable with that, because we know who we are, and we recognise that that will happen. We will recognise that they will go off and get other interests, or they'll become very, very good, in which case we'll say, do you know what? We've got a good link with Heriots. Go and play your cricket at Heriots because you should be playing National League, because that's where you should be. We recognise it. For the first couple of years we thought, how do we keep them? And then we realised, you know, it's not important for us. So we know where we are. How do you describe your members? If you describe the members of your club by going, oh, God, it's training again. Something's not right. Oh, Anyone been in that environment? Anyone been in that situation? I have. I've been on a training night, put my head in my hands saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I've got my 4th season of the under-15s. Under-15 boys. Anyone work with under-15 boys?
Yeah.
Fantastic, aren't they?
Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely brilliant. I've actually got a personal philosophy. Round about their 14th birthday, a boy has certain parts of the brain switch off. And I've got 2 that have been through it. And they just switch off all these little bits. Hopefully they click back on round about 21. Sometimes they don't. Living proof. But they can be an absolute nightmare. And sometimes I had to look at it and say, gosh, I've got something wrong here, because I'm actually hating doing this within the 15s. It's just becoming hard work. So actually I had to go away and think about what am I doing, because I wasn't living the ethos that we'd actually set, because actually I just viewed Thursday training nights with the under 15s as an absolute nightmare. You've been there as well, haven't you? In fact, we did it together one time when they all just sat down and refused to do anything. Not because of what we did, they just sat down and said, oh, we can't be bothered tonight. I said, well, no, come on, we've got to go. No, just sit down. No, you need to get up. No, we don't. So those of you who haven't worked on the 15s but are getting them this year, best of luck. Okay, so that was a little bit about who you are and some of the ideas about what you need to do to develop that. What we're going to look at now is pop quiz question number 2. So, quite simply, what's stage 2?
I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
What's step 2?
What do you want?
What do you want to do? Now, I've been talking for quite a while, so I'm going to get Ant to get involved in this now. Ant is the brains of the operation. I'm the bluster. Ant's the one who actually thinks everything through and does it all very, very carefully. So we'll start to kind of ease over now in case you thought, why is that guy sitting there? Apart from the fact this is his wee unit here that you press the button and it makes it all work. So a lot of the IT stuff is his. Okay, so what do you want to do? Okay, do you want to get involved now?
Seamless.
Seamless, look at that. Just dead professional.
When it comes to deciding what you want to do, for me, it's just about writing down everything that you think you want to do. There's no wrong answer. We've all got good ideas, we've all got good thoughts, we've all got good plans of where we want the club to go, where we want the juniors to go, the seniors, whatever it is. Write them down. There's nothing wrong with any of those. We work with clubs that have got no idea. They've a thought, we've got some land out there, we want to build something. Why? What do you want to do with it? Oh, don't know. Who's going to buy into that? Who's going to support you in that? Who's going to fund it? Where are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the capital to bring into that? You've got to understand what it is you want to do. So we have to write everything down. And then look at where you are now. So of all the things that are there, what have we done? What have we covered off? Where are we at now? Being able to have almost the milestones in place to say we've got to this point, we've got here, this is where we're at now. Moving on, tie it back into the ethos. We're going to come back to this a lot. Everything has got to tie back into what it is you believe you are as a club. If it doesn't, you're going to struggle to support it, to fund it, to get other people to buy into it. And that's what's kind of key for us, is understanding what it is you're trying to get out of it. Because sponsors will support that. Members will support that. Your membership will grow if you get your ethos right. People will come into it. People want to buy into it. You'll be able to become more sustainable as we move forward. So everything that you do, does it match in with what you want to do? Your ethos. What do you want to happen in the future? Again, write those things. Where do we want to go? That 10-year plan. For the guys that have got the 10-year plan, you've probably done this already. You've mapped out where you want to go. You've got your milestones in place, your 3, your 5 year, up to your 10-year. For those that are still living in the, what do we do tomorrow? Start to put some of these things in place. Think about the future. Again, it helps you to recognize financially, what do you need to get to that stage? What are the building blocks, the steps you need to take to get there? How are we going to slowly ensure that we don't actually have more going out than we have coming in? We're starting to bank these things. And again, you can't really see that, but does that match your ethos? Does where you want to be in 10 years' time match your ethos now? I don't think it's that one. It's not that one either.
That's the trouble. You wait all year and then
There
it
you
comes
go.
out at the wrong time.
Yeah, does it match your ethos? Again, trying to tie that back in. You've got to make sure for the sustainability side that it does. And then, from all of that stuff, what are we actually going to do? From all of the items that we've worked out, we've written down, that we've listed out, what is it we're going to do? Because that will help you then to make your plans, your targets, your goals, identify the points where you want to get to. What do we need to be able to do that? You guys have fundraising committees? Yeah? You've got to give them something to work towards. Sometimes they'll come up with good ideas, sometimes they'll come up with the thoughts of why don't we do this? But if you've got something specific that you want to try to achieve in 2 or 3 years' time, it helps them to plan for it, it helps them to think about the event, whatever it is that we're going to have to get there. That was quick. That's what it's about for me. What is it that we want to do? You're the only people that can answer that. I can't stand up here and say this is what you've got to do. As a club, you've got to sit down and work that out. You've then got to get buy-in.
So I was just going to say about that, almost before you get the buy-in, who is it that's saying what the club wants to be? Is it just the top table of the committee, or are you trying to get buy-in before you get started?
You've got to, I think that the committee have got to decide who they want to talk to within the organisation. Who do they want to bring into this? One of the problems you can get is if you get all of your members in a room and you say, here's what we think we want to, or what do you think we want to do? You can end up almost getting swamped and overrun. And we've got within the cricket club, we've now set up a part of the committee called Special Projects. And it's a little bit of a dumping ground, kind of. But it's where when these things come in, we hand them on to the Special Projects group. And we say, we're thinking about maybe this might be something to look at. How do we, give you an example, our nets. You saw the picture earlier on, the pitch with a wee box over here for the nets. We were sitting in the van one day as we were driving about and just thinking to ourselves, what can we do with that nets area that's more than just cricket? Can we get partners, other areas of the community to come in to be involved? As a cricket club, how many months of the year are our facilities used? 4, 5 tops? They kind of sit there. How can we expand this out? How can we get more people involved in that? How can we get potentially money coming in that will support and fund things as we go through? So we're now looking at that Special Projects to look at that nets area. What else could it be used for? So that's what we want to do. As John said, for a lot of it, we kind of go, yeah, I don't know how to do it. We don't know where it is. We try to find people that have got interests in that area. And it's one of the areas, I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later on in a bit more detail, but around our membership is we try to understand as best we can who wants to get involved in what. Because you get people that just don't want to pitch in, that they're just happy to come, pay their dues, play and leave. But you get other ones that go, I'd really like to help out. And so it's about trying to tap into that resource, that potential, and then get them involved and bring them in.
We had an interesting situation recently with a football club that we were asked to go and have a chat with because they weren't too sure about how to build. Basically, wanted a 7-a-side practice pitch. They had the land beside their existing pitch, and they got put onto us and they said, well, "Can you go and have a chat with them?" Because the funders were saying, "Go and see what you think about this." So we went down and had a chat with them, and it was quite interesting. I met with them first of all, and then we arranged to meet the committee. So I went down to meet the committee. And we pitch up, and there's 5 people there. And they said, sorry, we couldn't get the rest of them because there's something on, but we're here and we're going to talk about it. I said, great, what is it you want to do? So the first one turned and said, what we want to do is we want to build this, the 7-a-side AstroTurf pitch that we can use for training, and we can do this and we can do that. And no one else spoke. So we then asked them, what do you want to do? Oh, well, I'm not really sure we want to do that. And then the guy said, no, the manager wants to do this. What we found in about 5 minutes, there were 5 people there with 5 entirely different ideas about what it was they actually wanted to do. And when we said, well, what did the committee think? They said, well, we haven't really discussed it with them. They were trying to make applications for £500,000 worth of funding. And actually, none of the 5 people in that room had the same idea. And the more we went into it, the more we realised that actually they had 5 entirely different ideas in entirely different directions. So there was no shared view of what they were trying to do, but they thought they could go and get it. And they were actually frustrated because no one was offering them £500,000 to build it. And we had to try and sit them down and say, look, I think you need to go away and figure out what it is you actually want to do. And we fired in ideas like saying, do you really want to just build an outdoor 7-a-side pitch? Yes. No. Well, which is it? Yes, I do. No, I don't. What do you want to do? What we should do more? We said, well, what if you actually bought an indoor facility? It would cost more, but you can use it for the community. You can get other people coming in. You can put a pitch down that's multi-surface, that you can do football, you can do hockey, you can do basketball, you can do all this. Well, that'd be a great idea, that'd be terrible. And this was going on all night, and we thought, we have no idea what you want to do, you have no idea what you want to do. Yet you think you can go out and get funding, and you're frustrated that you don't get the funding. So it really is about you as clubs deciding, who do you have that conversation with? Who are the people within the club? And I would say that's maybe one of the first things you've got to do by looking at your ethos and saying, well, who actually decides on this? In our case, we have to work very, very hard. It's not just Anne and I within the cricket club. Because it'd be very easy for us to just zoom off and do all sorts of fancy things. And what we do is we've actually countered that by saying, can we actually have some sensible people that when we fire these ideas in, they go, yeah, well done, pat you on the head and say, that's great, another daft idea. The bulk of it is complete and utter rubbish and impractical, but actually 1 or 2 points are quite good. And the nets area, that's starting to look really exciting. Because when I was in Australia last year with some cricket stuff we're doing down there, what I actually saw was a fantastic facility where it isn't like nets here. Nets here are sort of static things you run up and bowl. Actually, theirs were all telescopic. They're all on cables and they go backwards and forwards. And when it's not nets, it's actually a netball pitch. But it can be all sorts of other things. If you thought, well, hey, we could do that. That could be used by lots of other people. But how do you do it? I've no idea. I've never built that before. We don't even know where to go. I don't even know what the stuff's properly called to do it. And that's the kind of stages the special projects come back to. They say, really great idea. And invariably special projects is Anne and I in a car or a van, firing these ideas around, saying we could do this, we could do that, and we could just create this thing. And then we take it back to the management team who then say, great, let's actually make something out of this. And then we identify lots of other things we don't know anything about.
And it's about, for us, it's then about talking to our members and identifying the ones that are interested. I'm the junior convener of the cricket club. My job, I'm also a coach, but my job on a coaching night is to speak to the parents. Is just to go and stand beside them and have a chat and to see where they're at, what they're doing, what they're, you know, and if there's something that we're maybe looking to try to do, to throw the idea out there and see what response I get. Sometimes I get response where people say, yeah, we'd love to help out. How are you going to help out? Can you give us money? It's always a good one. Can you give us time? Can you point us in the direction of somebody who knows what it is we're trying to do? So that's my job, is to speak to the parents. Yeah, I'm the junior convener. I still really don't know what that means. There's a job description written for it. But at the end of the day, I talk to parents. And that's one of the things you need to do. You need to get the right people to be able to do these things as well. So now the question's on understanding what it is we want to do. So we've got our ethos, we've tied all that in. We now know where we want to do, what we want to do. So the third one.
Help! I need somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone help.
What do you think stage 3 is?
Totally at home with the music.
Who can help us?
Just in my ear.
Who can help us? Anything else?
Where can you get help from?
Where can we get help from?
Expertise.
Expertise, volunteers. How do you do it? So we've identified what it is we want to do. How do we actually do it? As we say, we don't know a lot about how we want to do what it is we want to do. But we go and we talk to people. What are you trying to do? Here's all the things that we're currently trying to do with our club. Any of these ring true for any of you guys?
Yeah.
Junior section, build a facility. Anybody here trying to start a new club? Anybody trying to build a facility?
Yeah.
So trying to build a facility, anybody else? You got facilities, people are trying to build and expand. National, okay, let's not, is anybody trying to build a disability performance pathway? Is anybody trying to build a performance pathway within their club? Anybody want to take their club from perhaps being the club for all to having an elite section? Yeah, anybody in this room have a performance pathway? Has anybody spoken to you guys about how you did it, how you set it up, how you built it, how you run it?
Scottish Athletics.
Scottish Athletics have, so they're coming to see you, so you've obviously got a model of excellence. This is an opportunity for other. Would you be prepared to share it? Is another question. You don't have to answer that now. I'm getting the but there's something we can start to build the knowledge within the room. Go to people, look for help with this. We want to do this. What are the steps? How do we take it through? Getting people, attracting new members. Yeah, we all want to do that. Getting people on your committee. Do you ever have that at the AGM? Anybody want to be in the committee and suddenly everybody's like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't want to do that. It takes a special kind of person to be on a committee.
Can I float an idea for that one? See, the next time you say, does anyone want to be on the committee? Don't ask that question. Say, is there anyone in the room who doesn't want to be on the committee? Because people don't like putting their hand up.
Yes.
Is there anyone in here who doesn't want to be on our committee? See? Look at that.
Fantastic. We'll canvass you all. Links to other organisations. What other organisations share the ethos with what it is you're trying to do? Who can you bring in? I heard somebody talking about doing some strength and conditioning work. There are other clubs, other organisations that do strength and conditioning work. Can we bring in their expertise? There are other organisations that have built facilities. Can we go and ask them how they did it? We're trying to find sponsors. We're trying to raise money. All things that we're all trying to do. How many of those do you know how to do? Anybody here know how to sign up a sponsor? Yeah, so again, we've got some knowledge in the back of the room. Brilliant. We've got knowledge within the room as to how to sign up sponsors. Don't be frightened to ask. Don't be frightened to go to people and say, can you guys help them sign up sponsors? Maybe. Maybe there's channels that we can look
Can I say we're finding it hard enough ourselves, though?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure examples of good practice.
And sometimes one of the problems is you're all fighting for the same thing. You're all out there trying to attack the same people. You're all thinking about the same sectors, the same groups to go to.
Or are you looking for handouts, not sponsorship?
Yes.
Oh, we don't want to do that.
No, that quite often happens.
Does anyone know how to get past SEPA's drainage rules?
Fantastic.
We'll chat later.
Yeah.
And look, SEPA are based just around the corner here, so.
Do you work for SEPA?
You know it's SEPA?
Sorry?
Do you work for SEPA?
No, but when I worked, I was quite involved in, you know.
Excellent. We'll chat at
We
the end.
have someone at our club at the moment who is very involved with SEPA at the moment,
Right.
and we go backwards.
Okay.
Networking, good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
A lot of what I want to do is find that, because we've spent 18 months thinking we had an answer, and the most recent one was when SEPA said, oh no, if you do this, we will not object, and we thought, well, that's a good sign. So we said, okie dokie, well, we'll do that then, and they got the letter and said, oh no, we object. I said, well, you told us to do it. Ah no, that was a different office.
That's the problem you're going to have all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are the things, you've just got to ask the questions. We don't know how to overcome it, so we're not slow in asking people. I don't suppose you know how to do that. Is there anyone in this room who would not share something they were passionate about with someone who said, do you know anything about this? You would share, because actually the funny thing is, see when you're passionate about something, you can't stop yourself coming forward and saying, I can talk to you about cricket all day. If any of you want to know about cricket, I'm your man.
I'm sorry, I'll take you in there.
Yeah. You're a big cricket fan too?
No, I'm president of Scottish Athletics Society, so I'm just sitting listening to you, with great, and I'll be reporting back to Roddy and Keith about your performance.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, Roddy didn't come to the one in Perth, but he got a copy of the video, so there we are. Gosh, I better watch myself now.
Next.
Actually, slide 27's coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you've already done it.
Not for the first time.
We move on then. Can you do it? Yes, maybe I know how to do something, but am I allowed to do it? It's one of those things we all think, yeah, we can go off and just do that. Actually, you can break so many laws unwittingly by just doing something that you think you can do. So it's part of the question to ask, do you know how to do it? Yes, I know how to do it. I know how to wire a plug-in. I've got a degree in electrical engineering. I blew stuff up at university. Can I wire a plug-in? Well, depends who you ask. Legally, no. I can't do it. We've got to get an electrician in to do these things. Things that can become frustrating. It can become annoying that you've got to wait 2 weeks to get somebody to come in to do something. But can you do what it is you're trying to do? Who can help you? We've already identified somebody can help us with our drainage problems. Maybe I could rephrase that slightly, but with SEPA, we've got people that have got performance pathways, we've got people who get knowledge in this room. Yes, I think there probably are people who can help you to do the things that you want to do. What qualifications are needed? Another simple thing. Coaching qualifications. You want to set up a junior section. What qualifications do you need for the people to be part of that junior section? And you've all got junior sections, or you maybe all, or is anybody here not got one but thinking about setting one up? Has everybody got a junior section?
No, we don't have a junior section.
So it's the, what do you need to be able to set a junior section up? Governing body will have guidelines as to what you need. There's lots of other people in here with experience. Again, what qualifications are required to be able to do that? And then finally, what experience is needed? As John said, the first day that you turn up and you've got 25 kids all run out going, yes, entertain us. Because that's kind of what they come to cricket coaching for. It can be a bit daunting.
Or worse, yes, I've got a stump. And I am Luke Skywalker.
Yep. That's just the other coaches.
Yeah, I know.
But it is part of that experience. And then maybe going and spending some time with another club. And just being part of their sessions. Going to somebody who is going through the process of planning an event. You've never run one of these things before, a fundraising event. How are we going to run this? Well, I'm going to go and speak to somebody who's done one before. And I'm going to get them to help me, and I'm going to take them through it. Understand the experience. So what is actually needed for people to do these things? So whatever we're trying to do, ask yourself these questions. We're good at asking questions. We get lots of questions we're going to put out to you. We don't have answers for you for these. And this is part of the challenge. And the same when we apply these then into funding, into how do we become more sustainable financially. Again, we don't have the answers for your clubs, but answering a lot of these questions will help you to get a long way down that line. Yes, there are. Pretty much guaranteed for anything that you want to do, somebody else will have done it before.
Remember that acronym case, copy and steal everything? Absolutely wonderful. It saves you making so many errors by just going to someone else who's already done it and saying, do you mind if we actually kind of adapt what you've done for our needs, but what were the pitfalls? And you can save yourself an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money by actually just talking to people who've done it before, and they'll say, oh, no, you don't go down that route, we did that. Complete disaster.
Number 4.
This is the tricky one.
You get 2 goes
Those
at
of you
this.
who've been on the course, no sharing the answer.
You get 2 goes at this one.
I was born in the wagon of a traveling show. My mama used to dance for the money she
Got it, yeah?
What pathway are you going to follow?
What pathway are you going to follow? Gypsies, tramps and thieves? Yeah.
Share.
Raising money.
Anything else? Raising money? You hear? Raising share? Okay.
Does he love me? I wanna know. How can I tell if he loves me so?
How do you know you're doing the right thing?
How do you know you're doing the right thing?
Because my wife tells me I'm doing it. I'm doing the wrong thing most of the time. Oh, come on, that's what's easy now. Come on, you've got that. Commitment.
Commitment. It was actually said over here a minute
It
ago.
was.
Share.
Share.
Sorry, it's a bit corny, but it is.
You were right.
It's about sharing your plans.
That's why I'm chief executive.
It's one of those things that we'll spend a lot of time putting stuff together, and it stays in the little group. And this is maybe coming back, and we'll maybe help to answer who gets involved in it. It's about getting there and talking. It's about sharing what it is you want to do. Who do you share it with? Here's a list of people. First people, members. They're probably quite important for you guys. They're quite important for us. We want to share with them. The interesting thing that I heard a lot of people talk about was essentially 2 levels of people you're involved with. One, athletes, the other, parents. Active members and possibly to a degree passive members. So it's about talking to the parents, the community, local government, national press, kit suppliers, family, friends, other clubs. Loads of people that we've got the opportunity to talk with. Twitter is a fantastic thing. I like it because I get to see what other people are doing. I don't quite know how to use it yet, but it's a good way of sharing. You get to see what lots of clubs are doing. You get to see what lots of other organisations are doing and things that are happening at the minute. So they're all opportunities to share.
These are my ones. These are the ones I get to talk about. The blue ones, which for those of you who can't see clearly are the ones that are not red, are the ones I'm going to talk about. National governing body. We've got the representatives throughout the room. This is where I kick in and just do my Cricket Scotland bit. Really important that you actually talk to the national governing body about your plans. Because actually, of all the people, they're the ones who've got the biggest access to the people who've already done it before. And have got it right and have got it wrong. So actually, you've got to talk to them. Kit suppliers. How many of you actively talk to the suppliers of your equipment about your plans? I'm not talking about what you want to buy, but about your plans. None? They know more about your sport than you do. Because they've got entire departments that are geared to finding out what's going on in your sport and developing new products. They're a wonderful resource to talk to. And it's just about talking to them and saying, we're thinking about doing this. Often, we can see the shaking heads there, oh no, no, no. We always get situations where some of what we say is not going to fit in and we just accept that. But I've used that far too many times. We're trying to develop new products within what we're doing.
I
Simply
think you're using a business analogy there rather than a sport one.
All right, okay, we'll come back to that. And if I could give you 50p for doing that, I would, because that was fantastic. I want to come back to that. How many of you talked to the emergency services? Police, fire and ambulance?
We've just started.
You've just started, why?
Well, mainly because they're interested in help. Well, the police particularly are interested in helping the kids, and the kids are always saying, got nothing to do. So they want to raise the profile, and we've kind of got involved with them.
Diversion scheme.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Diversion schemes.
Yeah. One of the most successful cricket projects in the UK at the moment is run in Birmingham, and it's run by the police. To actually get kids who are out and about in the streets actually doing something more productive than smashing everything up. So actually, they've provided cricket, and they've linked in with the local cricket clubs. And they actually have people there who can help you by turning and saying, well, if you're trying to do that, we've actually got funds as well. They've got funds to do things if what you're going to do ties in with what they're going to do. Trade press. How many of you actively talk to the trade press? I take it there's magazines for athletics.
Yeah.
Do you talk to them? Do you tell them what you're doing? Do you share your plans?
Emailing.
Yeah. What benefits do you get from that?
Exposure.
Bit of exposure?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what they do for you, but what benefits do you actually get? Go beyond that. What's the point of you getting exposure?
Get more people.
Members.
Get new members?
Make people feel good about what they're doing.
Make people feel good about it?
Sponsorship.
Sponsors can see it.
Sponsors can see it?
We also shares to other athletic clubs what you're doing, they can learn from that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for us in working with the trade press, and we have open dialogue with them a lot of the time. In fact, there's a big article coming out fairly soon because, unfortunately, end of last year, a rural cricket club up in North Perthshire, Highland Perthshire, called Breadalbin, who've been around for a long time, vandals burned down their pavilion. Now, when you say that, everyone says, oh, that's terrible. I'd have to say, we played there a lot, and their pavilion was not great anyway. Sorry? They should have spoken to the police. They did speak to the police, actually, who probably knew what it was. But unfortunately, Breadalbin had their pavilion burnt down. And they were not a wealthy club in the first place. And they were actually just starting to get things going again when this happened. It could have been disastrous. But actually, we had a chat with them and said, hey, we've got a great idea. Why don't we play for the Phoenix Ashes? Because we're moving to new ground as well, and we've got a new pavilion. And they said, that sounds fantastic. I said, it'll be a 4-match series. So actually we said, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So they went to press, saying it's been burnt down, but they're going to have a series called the Phoenix Ashes. And actually the press got involved in it, and then it went viral, whatever that means, through social stuff. And they've actually had vast amounts of money coming in from all over the UK, from people saying, we heard all about it, and we've got kit, and we want to do this, and we want to support it. And actually the first match is in May. And we're playing a 4-match series between Kinrossshire and Breadalbin in the Phoenix Ashes. And the nice thing is,
the cricket joke about that was that somebody said to the president of Breadalbin that he was so sorry to hear that his pavilion had burnt down, and he said, oh, that's not till Wednesday.
well, the interesting thing actually about that was that Brian Stone, who is the president, the first thing people said was, where was Stoney? And the answer was, well, bizarrely, he's in Australia. And they said, well, that's a pretty good alibi. Couldn't have planned that better, could he? We're talking to the press. What it does for Kinrossshire Cricket Club actually keeps our profile high. And actually the press now come to us. And we have lots and lots of occasions when it's there. And the funny thing is, if your profile's high, people talk about you an awful lot. And the more they talk about you, the more people want to get involved in it. Interested celebrities. Any of you send off when you're going to do something exciting and write to interested celebrities? I don't mean in a kind of sad way.
That's just you.
Yeah, I don't mean stalking sort
Still
of
just
way.
you.
I mean actually interested celebrities. With what we're doing at the new ground, there are a number of major celebrities who are very open about the fact they're passionate about cricket. So actually finding a mechanism through their agents or whatever else, or through Twitter or FaceSpace or whatever it's called, and just saying, just to let you know about this, it's amazing what actually happens when it comes back. And the biggest thing that's happened for us is we got Kinross House as a ground. Because I wrote to Sir David Montgomery, who was a Knight of the Garter and Doodah and the Queen's emissary and wherever, and wrote to him and said, I just wanted to let you know that the cricket club's up and running, we're doing really well. And he came back and said, that's really good, I'd love to come and see what you're doing. And bizarrely, after a bottle of Macallan, we ended up getting a brand new cricket ground. Just a pity he sold it and kicked us out, but anyway. I mean, no, I didn't mean that if he's about. So, it's who you share with. Don't just turn around and say, oh, well, I told my neighbours and they weren't interested. Actually, you've got to come up and think about, we've got to share this with people. You've got to talk to an audience. How do you actually go about doing it? Well, here we are. You've got to create a clear message. This is where Ant's going to come in and we're going to double act now, because this is very much his side of things. You've got to create a clear message.
Anybody here read newspaper?
Yes.
Yeah? We open up Broadsheet Herald or something like that. How many stories are there on the 2 pages? Yeah, you don't, because you've got one of those things that, yeah.
Don't really go through it all.
There's maybe 5 or 6 stories. Why do you read one above another?
Stands out.
Stands out why?
It's got a
More
picture
human
with it.
interest.
Human interest?
Your own interest.
Your own interest?
It's got a picture with it.
It's got a picture,
Bigger headlines.
headline, bigger headline, whatever it is. It's something that draws you to it. And this is the thing when it comes about talking about creating clear messages. This is part of what I do as a day job. And it's about helping people understand that if I tell you stuff about me, it'll turn you off quite quickly. But if I tell you stuff that you're interested in, that you can hook into, that headline, you're going to buy into it. So the old question to ask there, 2 different ways of asking it. One is, so what? If you think you've got something you want to tell somebody, so what? What does that mean for any of those people on the other side, the last chart that we looked at, that we want to talk about? What is it in it for them, is the other question. That then will start to get people to buy in and to listen. And they'll think, yeah, that's good, that's what I want, that I can take. So this is when we talk about creating clear messages. It's not just about having the right words to describe what it is I want to tell you, but it's about what are you really interested in. And it can be a challenge. A room like this, the challenge, it's a mixed audience. There's lots of people with different backgrounds in here, lots of people with different expectations, different skills within the clubs. I'm guessing we've got some finance people in here. Yeah, we've got some finance people. We've maybe got some, are there any coaches? Yeah, so we've got some coaches. Not I'm saying that coaches don't know anything about finance and finance don't know how to coach. This could go horribly wrong. But I'll stop there, in fact.
Got any graphic designers?
Yeah, have any graphic designers?
Right? Actually, yeah, we do. Yeah, but for a separate reason.
But we've got to be able to try to give the messages that people can all take away. And we relate that a lot with stories. But
have someone who actually does this. Again, we talk to organisations and they have great stories, but actually they don't have anyone that can actually write them down. Or they do it by committee. How many words are there in a regional paper article? So if you're in the Stirling Courier or whatever it is, how many words in an article?
200.
200?
500.
500? And then 80? 150? Okay, what it flags up is you don't know. Okay? But excellent, there we are. Another correct answer from the back. That's what you get with cricket people. Always get the right answer. Yeah, people don't know.
he sees that a lot.
One of the big cricket clubs up in Perth Duca, I chaired the development group, and they were berating the fact that their articles never go in the press. And I said, well, why not? And they said, oh, we don't really know. I said, well, have you got any? He says, yeah, here's one. He handed me a 4-pager. Beautifully written. It was almost a book. And he said, but they won't ever print it. I said, Graham, no, they won't ever print it. He said, how do you know? I said, because Graham, because I got a maximum 500 words. That's all the journalists can actually put in. 500 words is the maximum in one of their articles. Oh, well, I didn't know that. I said, well, you just phone them up and see how many words. So what we then did was we worked with them and said, look, what you've got to do is get that entire thing down at the 500 words. Ideally, round about 490 to allow him to actually do a wee bit of work and edit in 10 other words of his own. But what we've become skilled at is actually understanding that. So actually you need to get the people who can do this. And some people are very, very good. When I asked about the graphic designer, that wasn't a flippant question. That was looking at skill sets within there. Is anyone here who's a proofreader? Nope. Done a wee bit. That's you volunteered. Someone said their wife. Is there anyone who's an English teacher? Married to an English teacher? Related to an English teacher? Or knows an English teacher? Yeah, there we are.
That's why my wife's good at it.
All too often people say, oh, I can't do that. So they put it and say, no, maybe if you can't do it, find someone who can. It'll come back to the ethos. Why should they bother? And what we do within the club is when we talk to people and they say, oh, I hope I can help. What is it you do? We have a woman in the cricket club and we say, what do you do? She says, I'm an interpreter. And we thought, well, that's handy if we go abroad and we're stuck, I suppose. But when we spoke to her and said, well, what do you do there? She said, I do a lot of proofreading and I actually edit for books and things like that. And I translate English into foreign languages. I said, so you do a lot with that? She said, oh yeah, words are my thing. Oh, really? Could you do press releases? Oh, you know, bother. Oh, super. You know how you said you wanted to help us? I've just figured out how you can. So you got to get someone who'll actually do it. And the other thing you do with these things to share your ideas is you get people to do it in a good way. You got to talk to people.
How many people here have got a website?
Yeah.
The club.
The club, sorry, not personally. The club's got a website. Facebook page?
Yes.
That's one of those ones that's a bit, some people aren't sure about Facebook pages, if they're good or not. Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah. YouTube channel? No, nobody's got a YouTube channel. How many people communicate primarily with their members via email? Yeah. What about text messages? Yep, some people with text messages. So we're all really good at using modern technology. Yeah? How many people in here get more than about 5 emails a day? Yeah. How many people here read the last email that came from the athletics club? Or perhaps if these guys turned away, the last email that came from Scottish Athletics. Or the last Twitter feed that came from Scottish Athletics.
It came whilst you were here tonight, actually.
We got, okay.
You're on Twitter already.
We're on Twitter, fantastic. It's a great medium, but we get overloaded by it. This is about talking to people for us, for the two of us. This is why I say my job as junior communers is to speak to people, speak to parents. That face-to-face time. That's how we get people enthusiastic about the club. That's how we get people to give us stuff.
It's pretty much the only way I can do it, because I don't Twitter or Facebook or email stuff. I just actually talk to people. And it's amazing because what I have found when I do emails is people just answer the email. We never actually get into a bigger conversation where I find out a lot more about them and they find out more about me. It's very much linear. Can you do this? Yes, I can. When do you want it done? Tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed. No bother.
The other thing is misinterpretation. We had, I'll tell a story about John here because he's standing there. We had one of our juniors, Kinross Cricket Club moved to Kinross Shire Cricket Club. And we had one of our parents, but one of our juniors who's somebody who's on the development pathway, trying to say,
I don't think you should tell this story.
He's not going to be playing for Kinross Cricket Club. Straight away, he read that and ping. Well, if he doesn't do this, and a whole tirade.
Now, we've got to explain this. He's actually on the talented programme. He's got a Scotland trial this year.
About
and we've invested a lot of time in this guy.
Be able to do all of this stuff if he leaves the cricket club. Send.
2 minutes later.
Walks out of his office and goes, ah, crap. Walks back in and goes, I might just read that email properly because something but he would be delighted to play for Kinross Shire Cricket Club.
His dad's a lawyer and thought that was a really clever way of playing with words. Before I'd actually got to the second part of the sentence, I'd emailed back saying, you can't do this to me because I've invested hundreds of hours in your son and he's got real potential.
And it's one of the problems of not talking to people. If he'd have said that face to face with a big smile on his face, we would never have tripped over that.
As it was, I got a phone call from his dad. And it came up and I saw it and I went, oh, hi Cliff. He went, you should read the emails. I went, yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
So they talked to each other?
Yeah, we did. We talked about it. And then he said, yeah, of course he's going to play. He's got this, he's got that, he's got everything else going on. And thankfully we resolved it. And I didn't actually put my phone in any further than I normally do.
We've got a committee member who, because she's an HR officer daytime, she decides she doesn't read emails in the evenings. and you try to get some kind of feedback from her, and she just ignores them, and she thinks that's fine, which is she's entitled to, I suppose. But
Just to let you know, because I'm on the board of Cricket Scotland, I'm the chairman of or president of the league, I'm the chairman of the development group. I also run a company, and I'm involved in other sorts of things. People send me all sorts of emails, and they copy me into stuff, which I really don't want to see. And the other problem I've got is because I do that, I've actually got several email addresses. But what they think they're doing, to be really, really clever, is, oh, he's got 3 email addresses, I'll just copy him in. That way I know he's going to get it, because he might pick one up on his phone, and he might get one on his laptop, and he might get one on the other laptop, which is where the club secretary is. So they send all these emails, and they all come to me, and they all come in on my phone. And see, from about 7 o'clock at night, my phone just goes beep, and I open it up, and there's 3 emails, all the same email from the league, copied in on something. And it's not uncommon that between 6:30 at night and round about midnight, which is generally when I kind of switch things off and say, right, at bedtime, I can get 40 to 45 emails, all of which are rubbish, none of which I read. Now, what that means is I do sometimes miss things, particularly when my wife, as club secretary, sent me things saying, can you please update me with the fixtures list, because I've got people chasing me. And I've just gone, delete, 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 delete. Or edit, control, alt, delete. Probably wasn't important, and if it was, it'll go back to me tomorrow.
With 400 members, we have found that our membership system is critical in determining how we communicate with people and communicate with Scottish Athletics and all sorts of other people.
Yeah.
And it's proving a real difficulty for us.
Well, that's very interesting, because I had a meeting recently with the chap who runs a swimming club. And they found a bolt-on to their website which actually manages a lot of that. We've got a meeting set up with him, because when I heard about it, and he said it's completely transformed the way they communicate. Similarly, they've got several hundred members, and they've got all sorts of things going on, and we're going to find out more about that. So if you want to get some details, when we find out more about where they found it, it's free. And he says they came across it because one of their guys is an IT specialist, and they used it within a corporate environment. But from what he's saying, it's just transformed everything. To the extent they have a situation that he explained, one of them, the coach was on his way to the swimming pool to start a session. There was an accident on the road. He wasn't involved in it, but it delayed him. And in the car, he just simply typed in and went, I'm going to be late, can someone start it? Within that, immediately the people in the venue got it and went straight back, and the parents started getting the warm-up done because they knew he was coming in 5 minutes later. And supposedly they use it so that they've got subgroups with it and all sorts of things that organise transport. And it sounds brilliant, and I want to find out a lot more about it because we could use it. But it's sharing, and has anyone come across that?
No, we like to.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic as a way of managing that electronic data exchange, because yeah, it's a big problem with big memberships.
I'm actually saying this to convince Scottish Athletics actually to develop one for athletics clubs that are not.
Yeah, we're listening, John. I'm listening.
See, I don't want to
I
step
saw
in.
that one coming actually the moment you raised it.
But the interesting thing for me is, without knowing anything, there's a kind of agenda going on here, because every time you talk, you say Scottish Athletics. So we'll let that one go. The other thing,
who's got that system at the moment?
it's Carnegie Swimming Club.
Carnegie.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's a guy called Alan Thompson. Don't do that, he's my accountant. So don't phone him there, otherwise you'll just turn around and say, well, I've got 400 athletics clubs phoning me up about this thing. I spoke to you about it and said it was great, come and see it. But yeah, there's a system out there that they found just completely transformed the way they talk to people. And that's again, sorry?
What was his name?
Yes.
What was it called?
Yes, I'm not, yes. Anyway, when we share things, I sometimes like to control it. Let me find out more about it and then I'll pass it back to Mark. Because it sounds fantastic if it works. What I don't want to do is give you a complete bum steer and find out it works for them because they've got 5 people.
What was it called again?
I don't know. That's why I've got to go and have the meeting. Right, okay, can we move on from this one? I don't know. It just sounded like a good idea, and I said, can we talk about it? Okay.
Just say that there are a number of packages out there that you can set up groups with email addresses and telephone numbers, but as far as I know, they all cost. So
No, this one was free, that's why he said it made a big difference. And he's an accountant, and he's my accountant, and I know what he charges me, and he's really, really tight in spending money. So yeah, he said it was free, and they found it. But you've already identified yourself as potentially someone who's a lot more about this than I do. So it could well be that we're conduiting through you on this one. The other thing you've got to do is, when it comes to sharing this, don't give up. It's one of the big things, don't give up on this. Ant's got a really interesting story about polo cross, who put an article out. You're better at telling it because I don't know anything about polo cross. and they put the article out, and they wrote this press release about some big event they'd been at, and sent it off, and it wasn't featured. What was it, 6 months later?
A year later. So it was the Pony Club Championships. The team went down, played, did really well, lots of photographs, wrote a press article, put it in, and it was into the Courier, into the local kind of Tayside press, and they ignored it. It wasn't horse riding. It's an elitist sport and nobody really likes it. So it was all these kind of things that went off on that side, and they just said, nope, we're not interested, nope, we're not interested. And then something happened in the press that tied in with an anniversary of somebody. And what they ended up getting, instead of a little tiny article with kind of 200 words about how well they did and a little photograph, was actually a two-page spread that was written with the article in, with the photographs, and the photograph that was used was then picked up by a sponsor, and it was used in all of their marketing and advertising. It was the NFU. It was used in all of their marketing and advertising for a long time within horse stuff. So just by sticking to it and just keep reminding them, hey, we're doing well, hey, we're doing this, hey, we're doing that, and they came back and they said, we now run that article, and we're doing it with the history of polo cross and the history of something else tied in with it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they kept plugging away and they got in there. And sometimes when we get the no, we're not interested, and the door gets shut, we go, ah, fine, and we forget about them. But it's just maybe the timing's not right. Maybe that's the problem. We're just not quite at the right point.
Okay. Oh, right. I just want to double check on this one because I made some last minute alterations to the normal schedule. Right, okay. We're going to show you a video clip for the 5th one. And I'll make apologies now, because when we did this up in Perth, I had to make apologies and said one of the folks that's in there has just gone through some bad press and not necessarily ideal. So we're not saying that because that person's in it. It's just a really good video clip. Now I have to stand up and say again, actually there's now 2 people in this video clip who perhaps are not the icons they once were. So I make apologies, but I can't edit the video clip. But it's a very, very good video clip. Yeah, no. If it goes on anymore, there'll be no one in it. Which is a pity because it's a really good video clip. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this, and it gives you the answer at the end. You don't have to shout out on this one. But what I want you to do is I want you to read this as it comes through. It lasts about 2 minutes, and it's one of the most inspirational video clips I've ever seen in terms of sport. Can anyone guess what step 5 is?
Yeah, gun and drugs.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't alter the video, but yeah, just do it. The biggest thing that stops people doing anything is the fear of doing it. And sometimes you just actually have to do it and get on with it. And within the club environment, that's what we had to do. That's why I've been very open. We don't know how to do a lot of the stuff we're going to try and do. But we will start that process. We'll share our ideas. We'll talk to the people that can help us. We write them down. We say, this is what we're going to try and do. We're flexible. If things don't work, we don't persistently say, well, we've said we're going to do it. We're just going to carry on. If we realise, actually, that isn't going to work, we'll come back and say, well, we've got that bit wrong. We need to try and do this. We adapt and we monitor and we go on. But the fact of the matter is, we have massive action. We just do things. Because sitting there saying, well, I really want a disability pathway in Scotland, and someone better go and do it, because I really want it, isn't going to get anywhere. You actually have to sit there and say, well, do you know what, I'm just going to go out there and start doing it. And I'm going to try and bring interested parties and see if we can get other people doing it. And sometimes that's the only bit of the plan you actually can do, is just go out and get it started. How do you do all of this? Well, it's pretty simple. You take small steps. If you're going to do something, don't try and do the whole thing. Don't just go and build a cricket ground. Actually identify those little steps you have to do. Set some realistic goals. First thing we had to do was find out how you actually build a cricket ground. And we gave ourselves about 3 months to actually talk to as many people as we could about what do you do? How do you do this? So we go through that and we say, well, at the next committee meeting I'll come back with some sort of plan. We set dates and we review it. Is it any use? Actually, it's going to be much more difficult than we thought. We might need to give this longer time, or actually it's going to be really easy. We can go and do it straight away. Does it still fit in with our ethos? It's far too easy to say, let's just go and do it, and what you end up with is not what you wanted. Constantly measure it back and say, is this still going to give us that family club? We could actually become very financially sustainable by opening a bar in the new pavilion. We know that. But actually, do you know what? We don't want that. That's not the people we want there. I don't want the families coming in and finding 5 guys who are there because it's cheap beer. That's not what we're about, so we're not going to do that. It's not part of our plan. Have a sounding board. My wife is my sounding board. She told me she was. She stops me going off and doing things quite as quickly by coming back and saying, actually, that's a daft idea. Normally she's right. Doesn't normally stop me. I still carry on and do things. And it takes several sounding board hittings before she actually brings me back to reality. And then has Pam, his wife. He's got a daughter as well, so he's very unfortunate. He's got 2 women telling him he's wrong. I've at least got 2 boys, both of whom turn and say, Dad, Mum's probably right, but carry on anyway. Don't fear getting it wrong. Number of people that don't do things because they think, oh, well, this is going to go wrong. Don't worry about that. You can change that. You can stop that. That's how you get started. Okay, so summary. Decide who you are as an organisation. Set some goals and create a plan. That's working out where you're going and actually write these things down. Work out where you need some help. The things that you don't actually have in place, that you don't know about, or that you might know about but you're not actually able to do it. And get the people in. Share all of this with other people. And finally, go out there and do it. Now that might not seem very scientific. We told you we weren't academic. Actually, it's just the core things that we constantly look at and measure ourselves against. If you don't know who you are, if you haven't got any plans, if you don't know who can help you, and if you don't share that information, you're never going to go out there and do it. That's the end of part 2.